This is the Werewolf channel. Please subscribe. You can win a PlayStation 5 on the 20th of October when it's drawn from all my subscribers. Hello, this is Will. This is the next episode of me being held in prison after being captured by the police. Court didn't go too well for me. I'm in Belmarsh High Security Unit, Cell 2. Somehow, I don't know how, must be through his links, Louis managed to get a mobile phone through to me. He's told me that once I've made this conversation or spoken over the phone that I need to get rid of it and make sure it can't be traced back to him or whatever. I don't know how we get away with all that stuff, but it's not my issue, I suppose. I'll just go over what's happened over the past couple of weeks. I've not been able to tell anybody since, they don't let me have much in the way of visitors and stuff, so I'll just carry on with where I'm at after my court date, really. After the court date, I'd been escorted by 14 people. There's an underground tunnel from the court to the prison. I was initially put in the medical centre. It's not bad, and it was full of very easy manipulated nurses and psychiatrists who thought that they were way clever than me. Sadly, they were not. After all the testing, they diagnosed me with ASPD. If you don't know what that is, it's antisocial personality disorder. I often find these terms pretty funny and endearing because they base their diagnosis on things that I'm sure you will agree to signify my sanity and not my so-called insanity. Being ASPD signifies the individual who manipulates and violates others. My answer to this is, who the fuck doesn't? Most people do. You need to in order to succeed. Show me any successful individual in life that has not got there by manipulating and violating others to get what they want. No business CEO and definitely no politician. The so-called most innocent are violators and manipulators themselves. They have to survive. Look at a fucking child. It manipulates and violates people's lives to survive. Those babies are fucking psychopaths. They don't give a fuck about you as long as they get what they need. All children are ASPD. I love the fact that a clear explanation of what I was diagnosed with is someone who goes against society, a person who is the wolf and not the sheep, someone who does not follow the rules or behaviours that the rest of the society commonly do. ASPD people are not the part of the herd of morons. You are mentally ill if you realise that society's rules and the constraints are just a load of made-up stories, a load of made-up rules. What the veritable fuck? Let us look at the common signifiers that a person with ASPD has, according to the experts. They have an inability to know the difference between right or wrong. Not true, because anything that happens is either right or wrong due to your perception of it. We have a tendency to tell lies. Who does not lie? Although, to be honest, I rarely lie because I do not give a shit about what anyone thinks about me. So, to be honest, I apparently find it difficult. I am a lot more truthful than all those who are so cowardly that they cannot not actually tell any truth. They may have reoccurring problems following society's laws, those people with ASPD, and may often have found themselves in conflict with authority. See? I just do not think of myself as part of society. What am I supposed to bow to? I'm something different. It's in my nature not to follow the rules of human society. I don't belong to it. As an ASPD person, we have difficulty maintaining relationships. Well, I don't really like relationships with inferior humans. I can never find anyone on a level with me in this world, so why would I want a relationship? People are there for me to use and manipulate. I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. ASPD people blame others for the problems in their lives. That's because Other people cause all my problems. It's that simple. Accept me for who and what I am, and I won't blame you for making pathetic and pointless mistakes. ASPD people show impulsive and dangerous behaviour with a general disregard for the safety of themselves or others. Why is this an issue? I just like to live my life the way I do. If you get mixed up in that in any way, then that is your fault. I can't help it. If you somehow get wrapped up in what I do for me, then that's your problem. If you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, then tough titties, it's your fault. ASPD people lack any feeling, for responsibilities of their actions. I am entirely responsible for the actions that I undertake. I just don't care that I'm responsible for them. ASPD people have the ability to manipulate and disregard the rights of others. Everyone does. Don't give me that shite. Everyone manipulates everyone else and does their best for themselves. It is a hock of shit that anyone thinking of others, before themselves. You put yourself first, right? It's not just me, right? ASPD people show difficulty with showing any empathy or remorse for their actions. What? No one deserves any empathy. No one deserves me to feel bad about my actions. You're all broken creatures. You're there for my pleasure and to fulfill my needs. I'm a werewolf. You're not. I'm a monster. You're not. And my favourite of them all, ASPD people have socially irresponsible behaviour. The medical practitioner to diagnose this will look at your past and ask about your life experiences. Apparently, the ASPD person will have a history of conduct disorder as a child. So they look for naughtiness in kids. They look for truancy and delinquency, which is a catch-all for committing crimes and other such aggressive behaviours. They also look at how you were treated as a child. Were you ignored or even fucked by mummy and daddy? Did you suffer the traumatic events and shit? This is supposed to be a factor. However, there is no proof of the link. I think it is a genetic thing. I think I was born like this and had the help of the vicious teacher that Fen my posit was. My childhood was somewhat idyllic. Fen was very good at letting me do my thing without getting caught. Horrible things happened around me throughout my childhood, but they really did not seem to involve me. They just happened. My first meeting with my medical assessor today, so I'm being taken to a little room to meet the lovely psychiatrist that would decide on my mental acuity. She was Dr. Rhonda Barr, and she would be my first meeting with a mental health specialist. I'd sent ahead my posit to do some reconnaissance. That word. It was a great gift to be able to walk into a situation with some prior knowledge of what waited for me. Seeing through the posit's eyes, she was a hot doctor. She was a proper MILF material. About an 8, 9 out of 10, long red hair tied up in a bun on the top of her head. She dressed in a manner that was just sexy enough not to be considered as tarty, but sexy enough to make a hetero man definitely turn his head, a bi man interested, and a gay man even give it some consideration. Her makeup was very well done and was professional art, but tempting. She definitely enjoyed being the centre of attention in jail when I was pretty sure that she was in many a wank bank of many a prisoner. In fact, she was in my wank bank and I'd never even met her yet. As we entered the room, my 6-man entourage stopped. 2 of the officers came in with me and took seats on either side of the room. I was still pretty heavily chained up. I had ankle restraints and wrist restraints and the full shebang. They'd illegally sedated me with some kind of Rohypnol or some Valium or some such thing. I was kind of impervious to that shit, so I soon metabolised it out of my system, although I did keep up some level of pretense that I was a bit groggy. Her excitement at meeting me was self-evident. What's this? Is this like fucking Joker out of fucking Batman, with whatever she's called? What's she called? Harley Quinn? She's supposed to be this type of thing. She had a full-on lady boner for me. She'd been excited from reading my paperwork, and I was physically wet in the crotch as I walked in the door. As I was sat, I had savoured the aroma of her. The spikes in adrenaline were obvious. She had a thing for psychotic killers, and I was the perfect representation of that, apparently. We sat in the interview room. The sexual tension was incredible. I knew she wanted it here and now, rough and with intense pleasure. It was too much. I stood up in the silence and ripped the restraints free from my limbs, just wiping them from my body. The officer on my left leapt from his seat first. He made the mistake of thinking that he could manhandle me instead of raising the alarm first. I backhanded him as I rose, killing him instantly with my strike, and he fell to the floor, motionless and dead. Dead, I think. The other guard froze in a seat, so as I stood, I turned and crushed her into a seat with a powerful leg kick. As my blow landed, I heard the crunch of ribs, and she slumped back into a chair to the floor. She was bubbling and incapable of further movement or interaction. Rhonda did not move. She did not scream. Her pulse rate raised, and she got very excited. Her hand went to the lanyard that she had around her neck. It was an emergency push button. If she managed to touch that button, it would summon help. Her hand was on it, and she held it softly between finger and thumb while she maintained eye contact. She was not ready to do so, though. She was being a little impulsive and wanted to see where this moment was lead. This was exciting, to say the least. She looked up at me, her eyes full of want and lust, as I stood over her. She cowered somewhat in her seat, but I knew it was a pretense to what she really wanted. I smiled as I looked down on her. You can press that little button right now and this whole adventure will take a very different course. Or you could not press that button and we could talk or do whatever you want until they notice the time. How exciting is that, Rhonda? I mean, that's pretty exciting for me. So imagine that you're wet and that you have to empty your shoes. I reached out and extended my hand tenderly towards us. It's your choice, my dear. She surprisingly did consider it. I actually was beginning to worry that she was going to press the fucking button, but she smiled and reached out and took my proffered hand. I dragged her from the seat and wrenched my body to mine. She gave a little moan of joy as I wrapped her in my arms and pressed my lip to hers. Mr. Beast? Mr. Beast? Huh? You were a little distant there, she said, concerned. Oh, sorry, I was daydreaming. How was your day today? I'm splendid. The conversation continued. Apparently I'm ASPD. The days are so boring in the HSU, but so great. The high security unit, that's the HSU, has me in it, and only seven other prisoners. This place had been home for all sorts of people. I mean, it's been there for crime bosses, terrorists, drug lords, and much worse, apparently. You know, it's had people like Charles Bronson in here, and he'd actually been in my cell, and Abu Hamza had lived next door. Outside the HSU are 4 cell blocks, each containing about 200 inmates. 1 in 5 of those is here for murder. These are my people. 10% of Category A prisoners are under constant scrutiny with cameras and all sorts of modern technology. I mean, they had that Julian Lestrange in here at one point. You know, the guy that sounds like he's out of Harry Potter? No, it's not Lestrange, is it? It's Lesage. Fuck knows. Anyway, they really were frightened of me a lot. They even had 3 layers of wire mesh above it to stop helicopters from coming in and getting the drug lords out. It was brilliant. I mean, boring, but I quite liked the boredom. I've had a couple of issues so far. One was with a guard who was a little mouthy and overzealous in his work. He worked in the evenings and found it funny to give me abuse through the little slot in the door. It is a very little slot in the door, but I got most of him through it when I grabbed him by the throat and dragged him through. Gosh, how he screamed as I drew him through that slot. Blood and guts washed over me in the door, and he was not so mouthy now. The morning after was fun as I sat in my blood-soaked clothing and people ran around shouting and yelling and getting all that frantic stuff, you know. When asked to explain my behaviour, I just told them that he had not been very polite and needed to be taught better manners, you know. From then on, my treatment had been much more polite and much more nicer. The second thing that had caused a fuss was my note to the governor. I'd asked if I could, you know, send him a note just to tell him how things were going and what I needed and stuff, so they agreed. So I'd already sent the deposit up to his office to look around and see what was going on in there. I'd asked, you know, if I could actually speak to him, but he wouldn't see me in his office. He wouldn't let me out of my cell after killing the guard person. Because my posit had been in the office and he'd had a look around, what he actually received was an excellent drawing of his family photo that sat on his desk. I mean, I'm a really good artist, so it was pretty much a photographic copy of it. I wrote nothing on it, just a picture. For some reason, that really freaked him out, and I had so many more security measures put in place. Anyway, it's kind of the end of what I've got to say. Life's a bit boring. I'm kind of enjoying the monotony, though, to be honest. I'm doing a lot of reading. The library's pretty good here, actually. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of reading, catching up with a bit of philosophy and stuff. I don't really know what's going to happen in the next few weeks. I'm kind of on the edge of wolfing out and breaking out of this place. That's probably going to be my next video, to be honest. I'll just see how long I can hang on for before I need to get out. Hopefully you'll see something in the media soon. Thank you very much. I now need to get rid of this phone. I have no idea how to get rid of it.